You know, trail cameras are pretty cool for defining buck patterns and for narrowing down that target buck and getting them in front of your stand, but a lot of people do it incorrectly. Just like food plots. Food plots can be your biggest savior on private land. They can also be your worst enemy. Because if you develop that pattern of use and you spook them off, spook those bucks off by overhunting those food sources, by overhunting food plots, which a lot of people do, then they can do far more harm than good. At the same time, they are the most attractive and offer the greatest amount of reward. Trail cameras are similar. A lot of people change their SD cards at the wrong time. They drive around the property spooking deer to get and change SD cards in the middle of the day. I know people will come up on a Friday night, they'll hunt Saturday morning. What's the first thing they do when they come in at 11 o'clock besides eat some food? Hop on the side-by-side, drive around and change cards. Might ruin their land for 2 or 3 weeks for a certain mature buck that's on there, because mature bucks are very negatively responsive to any type of vehicles going in and around their land, even tractors on ag land back in the woods, because deer are used to, they condition, they set patterns. Deer aren't used to seeing tractors back in woods. They're also not used to seeing big boxes. Big blinds, we love our redneck blinds. We enjoy hunting out of them, but we hide them. We put them a great distance away from where we're shooting. We don't put them on top of theirs. We don't put them in the middle of a food plot. And imagine deer are afraid of a little box on a tree called a trail camera, let alone a redneck blind. So I want to go through these steps of how I use trail cams to make sure I kill my target buck every year or two. People died, someone the other day said, well, you must kill your target buck almost every year. And you're right, I do. And we talk about it, we show them sometimes. My hunting videos are all in strategy videos. So I don't like wasting them on Jeff's Wisconsin 2022 Big Buck. Those are dumb titles. They die right after you put them, and those are what hunting shows do. I like instead offering strategy within the hunts that allow you to take from and learn from, so that you can take that to the field and have a more successful hunt. That's the only reason I do all this, whether it's your food plots, your habitat management, your herd management, or your hunting management. I want to give you information that actually helps, and that's why we work in all our hunts through different types of hunting titles, or titles that allow you to come in and actually see the hunt but learn from too. Morning secondary rut action. We have a really good one from years ago where a muzzleloader, where Dylan and I were out there hunting, great buck came in with a muzzleloader. Morning rut hunting, primary rut hunting, how to hunt a morning stand, and then we'll work that footage into there. Late season hunting, we'll work footage in there. Muzzleloader hunting, we'll work footage in there. I hope you can see the pattern. Early season hunting, we'll work our hunts in there. So that's how we work our hunts into. But bottom line is, I found over the years that you can kill your target buck about 80% of the time, if not 1 or 2 a year on average. So think about that. These are the steps that I go. And what's interesting, you can replace the trail cameras by just watching sign. You know, I always enjoyed in the past sitting with binoculars, watching deer, because first of all, we're just making sure those deer are alive. Once we know that, once we already know that buck from hunting them, maybe we're going by sign, big buck sign, then we can pattern a buck even if we don't see that buck. But a lot of times we know those bucks are there because we're watching them in the off season with binoculars, lawn chairs, and we're watching those deer without trail cameras. So you're just losing the actual visual of what buck that is, but you know a mature buck is in the area, and you could tell a mature buck sign. A big rub that has hooks on the back of the tree up high, 10 inches above the face of the rub, a foot of the above, 16 inches away from that face on the other side. You can tell it's a big buck. It's not just a little spike. Deep grooves, you can tell they're stickers, kickers. Pretty easy to tell that. How aggressive a scrape is made. The track size. A lot of people don't realize that sign is not, or a buck track isn't 2 dew claws back here with these running tracks up here made. You can have a fawn that does that. You can have a 1.5-year-old do that. A lot of times on my client properties, you can see where a deer ran across, but you can see these tracks, and a bound to tracks again. I say, wow, look at that buck, because you can see the dew claws and their splayed out toes. No, it's just a running immature deer. You can tell it's a small track. I'm looking for a big track. I want that track, Gunner, I don't know if you can see that in here, but I want that track. I want these 3 fingers to sit inside that track. And I'm a terrible artist, but you have those toes, you know, going something like that. There might be a little bit of space in here, but bottom line is those toes are right in there. It's a clean track on a clean surface, non-running, and if your 3 fingers can fit inside, it's a big buck. A buck grows till they get to 4.5 years old. The doe matures at 2.5. The body size continues to grow, the skeletal size along with the toe track continues to grow. So you can always tell by toes, rubs, scrapes, big tracks. You can tell a big buck's there whether you see them or not with a trail camera, but trail cameras make it a lot of fun because I like getting cool pictures all fall, and they help you really hone in on that target buck. And we'll go through these ways. Number 1, with a trail camera, where do you put them? I put them where I plan to hunt. In fact, I put them within bow shot of a tree stand. Those are points 1 and 2. I'm not here to watch those bucks during the summertime on my trail cameras. I already know they're alive because I already ID'd those bucks the year before at the end of the season, probably with trail cameras, maybe with a visual during the summertime or spring, but I know that buck is around. Maybe I found a shed. I already know he's alive. So I want to put those cameras in locations where I plan to hunt because I want to verify he's probably not there during the summer because the summer pattern and fall pattern are completely different, but I expect that buck to show up at some time during the fall. So even if I have a trail camera out during the summertime, I put it on the hunting spot so that when he gets bumped off his summer grounds once or twice or 3 times during the summer with people haphazardly going into the woods or putting stands out like we do during the summertime, you'll bump those bucks off. All of a sudden he's there for 2 or 3 days or more, and then he's back. You wonder, why did he come over for a little bit? Well, it's probably because your neighbor a mile away bumped him off in the woods, in those open hardwood woods. Maybe they were out cutting hay. That happens a lot. All of a sudden they cut the hay, they spook some deer off, they come back after a few days, but they go find that spot. And where do they go? They go in their fall hot spots. And I want to have that camera location in front of my tree stand so that when he comes back during the summertime, I know he's going to be there during the fall. So you can really pattern fall bucks by just seeing those random pictures during the summertime. If he's there all the time during the summer, that's a very bad thing because he's probably not going to be there during the fall. So I expect him to move in the fall in a certain spot because it's a funnel. It's a connection of woods. It's a bench system or a flat spot in ridges. It's an area where there's thick cover. I expect him to walk through that cover. It's an area that connects bedding with bedding. He's going in between doe bedding areas or bedding with food. There are areas that I plan to shoot him, plan to hunt, which is not where he's at during the summertime. So I like putting him all those cameras within bow shot. You know, right down here, are they safe? Are cameras safe? We need to cover that point real quick because they're very safe. I've even had some people in the hunting industry that are pretty high up in the hunting industry saying, wow, you know, there's a lot of people that don't recommend using cameras in front of their stands. Well, that's because they're spooking deer. The camera will spook deer if the deer can see it. If it's at eye level on a stick, they'll see it. They'll pick it out. They don't like it. That's why a lot of times you get one picture of a mature buck and he's gone. But if you're putting it 6 feet in the air, like I've been recommending for over a decade, put that camera 6 feet up, angle it down, give them the focus of a mock scrape. Very important. They come in looking at that mock scrape, not you in the stand or the camera on a tree, but 6 feet up facing down. We want the tree wider than the trail camera, and they want the profile hidden some way or that camera off to the side so they really don't notice it when they're coming through. You don't have to worry about it. We're not changing the SD camera just on a whim during the hunting season. We're only changing those cards when we're actually hunting the stand. And we might hit up 2 or 3 cameras on the way in or out of that stand. Then of course you're using cell cameras too. So between that combination of cell cams, regular cams, there's really no reason to ever spook a deer at your stand location. I talk about that often. If a buck's looking at your stand more than 3, 4, 5 times out of 100 pictures in a certain camera, you need to hide that camera. We had one year, it was 13 out of 16 cameras where we never had a deer look at the camera. So if you have deer frequently looking at your camera, it's because they're sticking out some way and a mature buck's gonna notice that. Then you can't put them at stands. If you're just putting them on something where they can see it very easily, they're gonna notice. And people think, well, I need to wear rubber gloves. No, they don't smell your cameras. Your fingerprint, unless they have a reason to go up that camera, your fingerprint on a camera does not give off scent 10 feet away. They need to come up, put their nose on it to smell it. The flash. We use low glow Exodus trail cameras. Pretty easy to hide the flash. That most cameras do that. Back in the day, we used to take a black Sharpie and color the inside of the lens so that it, of course, cut down on the flash, but made sure that it didn't see those red glowing dots within the trail camera. It was that important. This is going back to 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around in there. Also, those bucks can't see that camera. They're not going to notice if it's on that wider tree, if the profile is hidden. So really, again, they don't hear it. You know, obviously don't hear the cameras either. So Think about that. A lot of times they'll see it during the day. They don't even take a look at it at night. That shows you something's wrong. Number 4, live buck ID. It's the next step. Put them in it only in fall hotspots. I don't care where they're at during the summer. I don't care where they're at in their deer yarding areas in the wintertime either. Place within bow shot of a stand. Use a mock scrape. We have over 50 mock scrapes. You can check out, just type in Sturgis mock vine scrape. You'll see lots of scrape out there. They're original that we came up with. I came up with a long time ago. And I didn't come up with that totally. There are people that use rope scrapes in the past, and ropes are more of a gimmick. They'll get hit 1 out of 50 times, 1 out of 5 times, 1 out of 10, but they hardly get hit very often without something natural. So we start putting natural scrapes. We don't put them on a T-post or wood post off to the side. We hang them right over a stand from a branch, off of a rope. That's something we originated too. That right over, so that when a buck comes through, he hits his nose on it, leaves a scent. We have over 50 mock scrapes in our mock scrape playlist. And I urge you to check them out, how I've done it, how I've taught people to do it for years. My original mock vine scrapes, and using other branches we talk about too, the height. So you can check that out. That's something separate. And then we're making sure that that buck's alive. That's either the end of the season, we already know he's alive, end of the season scouting, sheds, summertime, and most of the time when they make it through a hunting season, they have about a 95% chance they're going to make it to deer season. There's really very little that kills them other than EHD some summers and some locations, so you got to watch out for that. Number 5, historical timing. So we're seeing all this, we're placing this in spots we want to hunt, we know he's been around. Historical timing, that means that we've recognized this buck pattern, we've recognized this individual buck. What has he done in the past? Is there anything that we've done different with food or cover to make him stay on the property even more that we can expect earlier use? A lot of times that first time a buck comes in, 2 or 3 years old from the neighborhood, might be December, late November. All of a sudden, 2 years later, he's coming in early October, September, because he recognizes your property as a fall property, and he spends a higher percentage of his time during hunting season on your land if you're doing it right. Historical timing, when does he come in? I've had bucks that they rarely show themselves, but they do show themselves 2 or 3 times during the daylight, during the rut. We're talking a 7 to 10 day window. That would be the first 2 weeks, 10 days of the season of November in the areas I hunt in southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, over into southern Michigan, over into northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, even northern Ohio, northern Illinois, northern Iowa. Pretty big area. But you're looking for that timing, and he'll tell you that's the only time I'm going to come on your property. He enjoys living somewhere else during the fall. And then you have him too, because you don't need to hunt that buck in September and October and waste those stands and sits and spook deer in the area. You allow that to be an inviting time for him to go. You can check out your camera from years past. He came in through, we got 3 pictures of him during the daylight, during the rut, and guess what? When it comes down to historical timing, make sure you look at the trail cam weather patterns. You're going to find that there are exceptions, but the majority of the time you're going to see mature buck movement less than 50 degrees, and you'll notice on those temperature drops. That's all based on my weather hunting algorithm we infused into HuntWise in the HuntCast weather app that shows when those deer are actually moving. So it's really important to check that out. But bottom line is you can check that out from your trail cameras. And then that'll let you know when to hunt. But it's not just historical timing and weather patterns. It's, hey, that buck's finally on the land, and we can go out and hunt him. If he's that buck that shows up during the rut, don't hunt him before that time. That's that timing window you're looking for. I call those non-core bucks. Core bucks are ones that are in and around your land often, close to daylight. Non-core are those that show up during the rut, and that's about it. And you want a lower percentage of those. If you have a high percentage of non-core bucks, something's going wrong with your habitat. You have too much summer habitat, maybe you're overpressuring. Bottom line is you can determine what kind of buck that is through your trail cameras, know when he's going to come on their property, either non-core or core buck time, and then you can set up accordingly for him, and the trail cameras will tell you when to do so, and then game time decision. That means when I go to a stand, half my stands I have trail cameras by. I can go check the 2-inch viewing screen of the Exodus that we like on an SD card, and I can look through there. And if I don't see a mature buck that I'm after, let's say I'm going out for a 4-hour afternoon set, can't wait to go hunt a stand, I always have a second option in mind, past that stand. So I go to that stand, there's nothing I want to shoot, there's no target buck. What do? I go right to the next stand. And the reason I do that is because this camera's already told me there's not a mature buck there. It hasn't been one in 2 or 3 weeks. I can just flip through and look at it real quick. So I'll just immediately go to the next stand. And what do I have to lose at that point? I already know I've X'd out this one because there hasn't been any use. I'll just go sit in the second one. A lot of times there might be just a 100-yard difference in movement, 75. And so going to the next stand puts you right in the wheelhouse of a mature buck because they are very specific in their patterns. The cool thing is, the older they get, the easier they are to pattern, whether it's with sign or trail cameras, but they're much more reactive to hunting pressure. So always set up your property, always set up your hunt on public land to take your pressure out of the equation. The best form of scent control, for example, is your stand location. That determines your access. You're not accessing through deer parcel or deer property, deer hangout, deer embedding areas, or food source areas. During the morning, you're blowing your scent into non-deer area. That's good predation hunting. That's how predators hunt. You get into that stand, blow your scent away from the buck. Use these trail cameras to determine if he's there, if he's alive. Make sure he's coming through during the hunt, during the hunting season, even during the summertime. Your stands are placed in front of your cameras. You're using mock scrapes. That gives you an inventory of everything that's there, gives you the timing. You're watching the weather, learning about the weather based on your trail cameras. It's pretty cool when you can look back and see those weather pattern changes that we teach. Basically, the more ferocious the weather pattern and weather front, and the colder it gets afterwards, the more movement you're going to see any time of the year. Those are great patterns to follow during the summertime, during the fall, during the winter. Any time of the year you want to watch bucks, it's great to follow those patterns, and then I'll put you on game every single time. So these are ways that I use these steps right here to kill my target bucks to a very high degree every year. But even doing all this, even have food plots, even have great habitat, it all boils down to how you hunt. How you hunt the land is the lowest hole in the bucket. Not how many pictures you get, not how many cameras you have out. You have to make sure that wherever you hunt on public or private land, that you're taking the hunting pressure out of the hunt. Once you set up that system of hunting, system of movement, of habitat features or improvements that you make on your private land, then it's a matter of how can you keep that intact and not spook it, which we try to teach on this channel. Some really cool ways to make sure that you follow up after you've taken the hunt out, after you've had a good hunting approach, by using trail cameras to hone in on your target buck this fall. And I want to hear about it down below, because once you set this system up, once you kill a target buck in that pattern, it's just a matter of waiting 2 or 3 years for another buck to fill that same pattern, because they always do. And then you have them, because you've already known how you've killed them in the past, and those patterns repeat, repeat, repeat. And then you can apply those patterns to other places you hunt, and it becomes a very systematic system for honing in your target buck every single fall. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes so that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.